Alrighty, guys. So my name's Marissa. This is Jonathan, and this is baby Kai. He is almost 7 weeks.
Yep, Thursday.
Almost 7 weeks. He'll be 7 weeks on Thursday. And just a little background. So going into my pregnancy, I had a really close friend who has done 3 home births. And I always loved her birth stories, and I was already sort of leaning towards that direction for I wanted our birth to be like. Jonathan was 100% not on board with home birth. He did not like the idea at all. He wasn't really educated on what birth was like at all. So
I didn't need to be. I didn't have a kid before then.
Yeah. So he just had
I don't go to my mom asking, hey,
right.
What's birth like?
Okay. Well, the only thing he knew was just from TV. So
no big deal.
Basically, I knew what I wanted, but we had gotten to about 22 weeks of pregnancy trying to come to an agreement. I was going to see an OB, and I just was not happy. At my anatomy scan was pretty much the last straw. And I told him, we were in the Bradley method classes with Ashley, and I was like, can we just sit down with Ashley and let's just talk to her, just hear it out, like what it would look like to have a home birth. So we went. He was already starting to open up to the idea, though. I think it was partly the classes and Ashley's education, and then definitely me praying that he would be open to the idea, because I was not going to the hospital. And so basically we ended up meeting with Ashley, talked through it, prayed through it some more, and then we decided that we were definitely going to go with a home birth. And so Ashley obviously was our midwife. Relevant stuff for like pregnancy. My pregnancy was pretty smooth. I did have a really bad back injury my second trimester. But besides that, I did end up having gestational diabetes, which was a interesting thing because Ashley had, asked if I wanted to do the glucose test, and I refused it. But I was going to check my blood sugars in the morning and then after meals. And so did that the first time, like not expecting to have any issues. So I had eaten like hibachi and like checked my blood sugar for the first time like an hour after. It was like 180 something. I was like, I don't know if it's supposed to be like this. And then the next morning it was like in the 200s. And so then, yeah, I did panic for a while, just not knowing what it was going to look like, having gestational diabetes. Ashley was great with partnering with me because she gave me lots of resources, and we ended up having, being able to control it with my diet. Never had to be on medication. I did not have a big baby. I don't know if you can tell, he came out 7 pounds. So like that was never an issue, which I know is a concern with gestational diabetes. All of those other concerns, nothing of that happened. So I guess I should also give a little bit of background. I am a nurse, and I used to work in the NICU, and I did labor and delivery as well. So it was also very polarizing, me wanting a home birth and like leaving, not wanting to be in the hospital. And so fast forward to birth, I had started having some like more sort of consistent Braxton Hicks contractions.
You starting talk about what we were trying to look at before doing home birth?
Oh, we had just decided we were trying to go into a birth center and stuff like that, but then I just didn't feel at peace. That's what Jonathan was mentioning, that we were going to do birth center. And then after all of that, I realized I didn't want to do that because it was 2 hours away. So, and
it was like, if any one thing were to like not be right, even with like her having gestational diabetes, they wouldn't have taken her.
Yeah, I would have got kicked out of the birth center anyways. So this one was very, very strict. But so fast forward, I was having those contractions on Monday. Nothing bad. Ashley knew. She basically told me to like eat, sleep, ignore them completely. And that's what I did. So I ignored all the contractions I was having on Monday and Tuesday. I ignored it. And I slept. I knew we were getting closer to, it being the real thing. So I was like, okay, just listening to everything Ashley told me. I was like, sleep's going to be the most important. I'm going to need energy. And then so I started at that point too, like the whole diet controlled diabetes thing went out the window. I was having contractions, so I figured I needed carbs. And so I was like carb loading, so I would have energy to get through the birth. When you started getting contractions. Okay, so I was 39, 39 weeks.
Yeah, in a
Was it
day.
39 weeks in a day when I first started having contractions. I did like try to, everyone tries to like naturally induce because I was like, I'm going to have this baby at 37 weeks. Yeah. But he was low, like he was engaged for a while. I did see a chiropractor twice a week. I saw one my whole pregnancy. Second trimester, saw one 3 times a week. And then at the end of my third, I was going twice a week just to make sure he was an optimal physician. And I wanted things to go, smooth. At work, I sat on a bouncy ball, so I was bouncing all the time for my 8 hours. I'm trying to think what other things I did. I drank the raspberry leaf tea. I did all the collagen, like anything you can think of. I pretty much probably tried.
Portofino's or whatever it's called.
I had eggplant.
Yep, Parmesan.
Eggplant Parmesan to induce labor. Wouldn't recommend, but unless you like eggplant. But yeah, so basically that happened on Monday. We were ignoring all of it. And then fast forward to Wednesday, I did not work that day. And the contractions were getting a little bit more intense. And what I mean by that, it literally, so like before I had birth or gave birth, I was wondering what contractions actually felt like. And then for me personally, I really do think they just were like period cramps.
She was like, oh, this is going to be easy. I just reassured her, like, yeah, you got this.
Definitely would say it was easy, but I was like, it's just going to be it, or they basically felt like period cramps. Sometimes it'd be more intense, sometimes it wouldn't, but it would always let up. So it was like, oh, I just have to push through for, a minute and then I'll be fine. Like if I can breathe through a minute, it's going to go away. And then I'll know I'll have one eventually again. But it was just helpful for me to remember that it's just for like a short point of time and then it goes away and I have a little bit of relief. And so Wednesday contractions were getting a little bit more intense. It kind of by the midday, Ashley had given me a list of like positions to like stay in for about like 30 minutes for like each one. So I'd have contractions through them to pretty much speed up the process because we knew I was in early labor since Monday, but we were trying to like, get to active labor. So I did all of those positions. I was staying in them. Contractions were getting like pretty intense, but then they would like fizzle out and I was tracking these ones. And so they would be like 5 minutes apart and then they would be 8 minutes apart. And then I had a couple that were like 30 minutes apart and I was like, this is just not consistent enough for it to really be much of anything. So I did the last exercise she showed me to do and it was at 7:30. So I was doing that one and I was like, man, I was really hoping I'd go into labor so I could start my maternity leave tomorrow because I don't want to go to work. And so I did that last one, 7:30. 8 o'clock, I was done. I texted Ashley and I was like, hey, contractions are getting, after that one exercise, I was like, contractions are pretty intense now. Not bad, but it was like, I could definitely feel it and I had to stop what I was doing and kind of talk myself through it. And so I texted Ashley that. She was like, great, maybe you'll be going into active labor soon. How about you go, sit down, go get in the shower and then get some rest, go to sleep. So I did that. I went and got in the shower and then just on the way to the shower, I started noticing my contractions were like getting a lot worse, like almost out of nowhere, it felt like. And I got in the shower and I was like, maybe I should like time these. And I had quite a few contractions and they were 2 minutes apart. And so I was like, man, I feel like I kind of waited to the last minute now. But I definitely was like pretty much in denial that I was in active labor. I had a photographer who was also my best friend that's had 3 home births. I had texted her and I was like, hey, I'll probably be going into active labor in about a couple hours. So just, have your phone on you. And she was like, how far apart are your contractions? And I told her, and she was like, how about we hop on the phone? And so got on the phone with her and I could like barely talk because I was having contractions like so frequently. I was like, hold on. So I'd have to like go through the contractions. She was like, can you like call your midwife? I'm going to come over. I was like, sure. Yeah, I'll tell her. And so I texted Ashley and I was like, hey, contractions are 2 minutes apart. Told her what was happening. She was like, okay, I'm coming over. So I basically got out of the shower. Oh, by the way, the hot water, instead of relaxing me to let me go to sleep, made the contractions way worse. So it sped things up. So that was like
better.
It made way better. Yeah, because it sped things up. And so I knew at that point, I was like, oh, this is like definitely active labor. And so I got out of the shower and I yelled at Jonathan. I was like, do the list. Because I had made a huge list of things he was supposed to do when I went into labor. And so he's like,
I did them all.
He was blowing up the pool and like doing his thing. And I was just breathing through contractions. I remember when my friend Brittany came and I was just kind of like sitting on the couch. Oh, I was on all fours on the couch, just kind of like focusing through contractions. I had like my headphones in. I was listening to like some Christian hypnobirthing. I switched over to music at some point. Ashley came, did a couple of assessments, got vital signs. These contractions, like, they were sort of intense, but it was like you could breathe through it and be fine. And that's pretty much what I did. I just wasn't talking much. I was just kind of focused on that. And then they were getting the pool blown up, and I had heard, or I was on Instagram probably a couple days before that and following some birthing account, and it had said that they called the toilet dilation station. And I think this is funny because when we were in our Bradley method classes, when we talked about people laboring on the toilet, I just thought it was the most disgusting thing ever. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Jonathan would make jokes about me being like me delivering on the toilet. And I was like, that's nasty. Like, I'm not going to sit on the toilet with contractions for hours. It's like, I'm very OCD about bathrooms. And so I was like, that's just not going to happen. Well, so when I saw that on Instagram, when I was in the mode of having contractions, I was like, well, shoot, let's speed this up. Let me go sit on the toilet. And so I would say, gosh, I don't know, Ashley or Jonathan, how long was I laboring on the toilet in the beginning?
Well, a while, because like I had the water hose, but it broke, so I couldn't fill up the pool, so I had to go to Walmart.
So they did good about not telling me what was going on, but I knew there was a lot of commotion in the living room.
She saw water coming down the hallway,
and I was sitting on the toilet, and I literally look and I see like water just coming down our hallway, and I was like, I'm not gonna ask. They'll figure it out. So when he had hooked up the hose to the pool, it busted. So water was flooding the house right there. But I didn't pay any attention to that. Him and Brittany were trying to get the pool figured out. Ashley was with me in the bathroom, and we were working through the contractions. And she was basically just kind of like coaching me through it and helping me to stay relaxed. And so I stayed on the toilet for a while. And I really do think that helped me to speed the whole process up a lot. Yeah, so probably a couple hours. And then once the pool was ready, they told me the water was ready. So I got up, made it back into the living room, got in the water. My whole dream was to have like a beautiful water birth. I hated the water. I got it. That was one of the whole reasons I wanted a home birth. Hated it. Did not like the water. I felt like kind of like out of control, like there was too much space. I don't know. It was so weird. Contractions got more intense in the water. But I was doing like positions in the water. So that, I mean, it makes sense. The contractions got more intense because I was trying to speed things up. But yeah, so it wasn't a fan. I didn't stay in the water that long. Ended up getting out at some point. I had like this whole idea too with like my music playlist, like this is going to be perfect, like perfect music playing during these contractions. I couldn't handle it. I was like, Jonathan, turn the music off. Like, just turn it off. Like, they're yelling. I just don't want to hear this. So music went out the door. We all sat in silence. Yep. Worked through the contractions.
That was like 1:30, and I was sitting there. I was like, am I a jerk if I get on my phone? I kind of like gauged Ashley. I was like, what do I do? And she was just sitting there looking around. I was like, oh man, I hope this doesn't last too much longer.
So Jonathan was bored. But yeah, yeah, I was just pretty much focused at this point. I don't even know what time it was, but at some point, Ashley was like, how about you get up and go to the bathroom? So I got up, went to the bathroom. I don't know did I get back in the water after that? No. Or was that the time I stopped getting back in the water?
Stopped.
Okay. So I got out of the water. And once I got out of the water that time, I got a really bad contraction. And I think we have a picture of it where I had a really bad contraction out of the water. And I was like holding on to Jonathan. I was like, oh, this is getting intense. We got to the bathroom. Jonathan was with me in the bathroom this time. Pretty much just kind of sitting there with me, doing a little bit of counter pressure. And then I started throwing up. And I was like, it's so weird. But I was like, yes, I'm transitioning. I'm getting somewhere.
Don't eat lasagna before.
I did eat lasagna for dinner. Yeah. Gross. Yeah. But bad idea. I needed the carbs though. I hadn't had lasagna in like months, felt like. So basically at that point I knew I was transitioning. So I was like, okay, that's good. Things are going to go, I mean, it's going to get more intense, but things are going to go better. I did end up, I got Ashley's attention at one point because I was pretty positive my water broke. Yeah. Basically, I had gotten back on the toilet and contractions were extremely intense at this point. Like I was having to like really focus and moan through them. And like, I would have a couple that would like double peak. So I wasn't getting like as much relief after that I was like expecting. But it's still like, even at that point, just knowing that like we were so close, and because of like everything we learned in the class, like this sounds like really sad, but like even with being a nurse and working in labor and delivery, like you pretty much just go by like what you're told. And so like Bradley method just helped us learn a lot more about what's actually happening to our body, or to my body. And so basically that helped me to understand what stages I was in for labor. And so I was able to handle the pain a little bit better, I think, just because I was more educated, because I knew that it was happening, you know, for a reason. Things were speeding up. Contractions were more intense. That's good. It's because it's speeding everything up. And so I'd never got any vaginal checks, so I didn't know how far along I was. But I was starting to have a lot of pelvic pressure, and that had started in the pool. And that's when Ashley was like, you know, get out and go to the bathroom. So I was having a lot of like pressure down there. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is good. Like my cervix is probably getting really close. Like we're probably like about to do this thing. And so I remember being on the toilet, and that whole last time, like having my arm like in the toilet, like making sure that like Kai didn't pop out.
He's like, Ashley, what if he comes out on the toilet? We'll be okay. And Marissa, like knowing what she thinks about like toilets, she's like, okay, I'll be all right with it if it happens. I was like, oh my gosh, she would not.
It was just like, I was like, I'm having a lot of pressure. Like, I don't know when, like, I'm going to push, and I don't know, like, I assume my body's just going to take over and I'll start doing it when I need to. But I was like getting kind of nervous that he was going to come out right there, because the contractions were intense, and I never had like really any back pain, but the contractions, just because they had been happening for a while, you start to get sore. So my back was sore. And these contractions were different. Like I felt like in the beginning, it was more of like the period cramps. These felt like they were deep and low. I can't really even describe it. It was just like a deep and low, like I knew it was my cervix, like just opening. And so I had turned around on the toilet at one point and was talking to Jonathan. And honestly, I was like, I think I just got to poop. And then I like remember like a couple times like trying. I'm allowed to share all of this, right? Everybody is okay with this. Okay. I have no discretion. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to try. And I like had pushed a couple times, and I was like, no, like I pooped like probably an hour ago. Like, I think I know what's happening here. And so I was like, okay, things are getting intense. I remember at one point I was like, Ashley, I just need to go somewhere. And she was like, do you want to go back in the water? If you really want, you know, your water birth that you were talking about, I think you should get in the water. So at this point in my mind, Ashley knows I'm really close, because she's telling me to get back in the water if I want to deliver in the water. And so I got back into the living room. My friend Brittany had emptied out the pool and filled it back up with hot water. And I was like, no, I'm not getting in the water. I can't do it. I can't. I was like, I just need to sit down, Ashley. And she was like, okay, I've got like a birthing stool. So they put the birthing stool on the ground. I sat down. I don't know what happened. It was like, it felt like almost out of nowhere. There was like a surge, and it was literally like when you're throwing up, you know how your body just kind of like responds. That's literally what it felt like for pushing. And it was like, as soon as like I felt that, I just kind of like let go, and I was like, let's just go with it. So I like went with it, and I was like, I don't even remember things I was saying.
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Well, apparently I didn't say anything. In my mind, I was like saying stuff like, oh, you know, this is intense. Or I think I did apologize at one point. I was like, I think I'm pooping. Yeah. But in my mind, after I said it, I was like, oh my gosh, like you've had patients say that all the time. That means you're delivering the baby. And so I was like, I don't even know why I said that. Like, I just wanted to be that patient, I guess. And so that first push though was so like, it felt so powerful. Like it lasted for a while. But it didn't. And I'm pretty sure his head came out with that one. Or was there
most of it?
Most of it? I don't know. I remember, I think I pushed 3 times. And so it was around 3 times, and he
It
like
was
blew
like
out.
15 minutes, I think, class.
Really? It's
I can
insane.
look up the chart, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I don't know when you were fully dilated, but.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. It felt so fast. Like I remember, like, if it was the first or the second push, I don't know. His head came out, and it was like, I remember like a little bit of burning, and I was like, oh, this is the ring of fire. Okay, don't freak out. That means your baby's crowding. It's only gonna last for a second. That probably was like a little bit more intense than the contractions. I didn't like the way that felt right then, like with his head coming out. But he didn't stay there long. He like shot out after that. And so basically after that, I mean, Kai came out like super quick. He took a little bit longer to transition, right? Just because he was super shocked by how fast he shot out. And so he was still attached to the umbilical cord, obviously. I think y'all did 2 rescue breaths on him. I can't remember. 2 rescue breaths. I mean, it's not like it was like a big like panicky moment. Like it didn't feel that way for us. You know, as soon as Kai came out, like I put him on my chest, I could tell he had a weak cry. He was a little gray. I could see that too. But like it still never was like a moment of panic, which I literally think was just like God's grace through all of that. Like knowing, like having worked in the NICU, like to not freak out when your baby comes out gray and it's not like crying like they should be. And
Ashley was chill.
Yeah, it helped that Ashley was very calm. Like we knew like what we needed to do to perk him up a little bit, and he really just needed a little bit of time. And so eventually he perked up and started feeding him right away. He latched great. That was like probably the most painful thing I felt like from like the whole day was the latch. I did not like that. It wasn't what I expected, at least. I was like, oh my gosh, this hurts. And they were like, yeah. I was like, man, I thought I was like done with all of that. And then we had to deliver the placenta.
Then we got a tour of the placenta.
Jonathan got a tour of a placenta, which y'all, this is monumental from a guy who didn't want anything to do with like birthing, didn't want to look at blood, was like, I'm not gonna look, blah blah blah, before our classes. For him to ask, I didn't care. I already knew what a placenta looked like. For him to ask Ashley, like, yeah, I'll take a tour of the placenta. I should have filmed it.
That's weird.
So, but yeah, trying to think what happened like immediately after that. Pretty much after that, I mean, it was like you get like these surge of emotions, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I just did that. I was like, I'm a boss, is what I was thinking in my head. I was like, I'm pretty tough. And then it was like, crap, now there's a child. Like, what do I do with this thing? But I know Ashley and them were great. They like got us to the bedroom, and we got to, well, she checked me for any tears, didn't tear, praise God. I'm trying to think what else. They did like the newborn assessment. They made like an herbal bath for me. People were bringing me food to eat.
They asked if I wanted food. I was like, I'm not the one who just gave birth.
Yeah, like everybody was cleaning stuff up. It was just so nice to be able to chill and relax. So it was just, I don't know. I thoroughly enjoyed the home birth experience. I will never, I mean, God willing, I'll never have to deliver in the hospital, but always do home births. How long did it take to birth the placenta? I was actually kind of annoyed at that part because I felt like I just did all this hard work and then I have to like push out a placenta. Ashley was like, on your next contraction, you need to like bear down. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I just delivered him and now I have to deliver a placenta. I thought it slid out. I could have sworn it slid out of people. But no, it did not. So I had to stand up actually and bear down because it was not wanting to like come out when I wanted it to. So yeah, basically that's how that went. But it like didn't hurt or anything. It just kind of like flops out. It's weird. But yeah, we had our newborn assessment. We had an herbal bath. The whole process I think took 7 hours, like in active labor to like delivery of Kai. Like if I started at like the 8:30 time, we delivered him around 3:30, 3:40, something like that. So I mean, I'm a first time mom, so I'm pretty impressed by that because that was a very fast birth and delivery. But yeah, does anyone have any questions? I can't really think of anything else that's like pertinent to share. You?
I do. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I did awesome. Ashley was there, so I didn't have to do too much and I didn't have to remember too much. But I will say this. For me, the classes helped a ton just because one, I didn't know what was going on. I wouldn't have known. I was like, the doctors know everything. But they don't know everything we want. So that was cool because Ashley knew. We had those conversations and she actually cared. And well, most of it Marissa wanted. I could have cared less because I wasn't doing it. But and then so actually knowing the stages, so I didn't have to keep on asking Ashley, hey, what's going on? Why is she puking? Like I knew everything was going on. So it was a lot more like chill. But yeah,